trash is pretty much the same thing as a normal trash. So today's
Wait, I'm
first...
frozen?
Yeah, well, you were. Today's first hot topic is going to be a court case that was recently tweeted by Casey himself describing that AI and the training data for AI may or may not actually be legal to use. And so what are the implications coming on down? This is with Ghibli Studio, which Casey specifically pinged in it. And so what are going to be the outcomes? So Casey, since you opened to this can of worms, why don't you guide us somewhere with this conversation?
Wow, you're going right into heavy duty stuff here,
Yeah.
Prime.
This is the stand-up. This is not the mess around, okay? We don't talk about our dogs here.
All right. So no, this was not about Studio Ghibli. This is actually from a case. It's Thomson Reuters is the people who are filing this particular lawsuit, or I should say the people who are worried that their copyrighted work is being infringed unfairly. And in this lawsuit, so just to give you sort of the big overview, everyone agrees that AI training is copyright infringement, at least in the sense that they are taking copyrighted works without licensing them. So there's no argument there. Like AI companies aren't like going into court and saying like, what? No, we didn't use any copyrighted work. Like no one's saying that, right? They're all saying, yes, we did. But their argument is that somehow this is okay, right? And so what happens when you go into court and on that footing, right? Your legal footing is we're violating all these copyrights, but it's okay for us to do it. You have to provide what's called a fair use rationale. And just to be clear about what this is, copyright is a worldwide thing. It's international. The U.S. is a party to something called the Berne Convention, which is like a uniform agreement that copyright is respected everywhere, right? So it's not some weird like only U.S. thing. It's not some like finicky thing that only Congress decided or anything like that. This is a worldwide agreement that when someone writes something, they have the copyright for it, and they have this right to exclude other people from using it in ways that they don't like, right? Now, in the Berne Convention, it allows countries to make exceptions to this on very limited grounds. So basically, a country is allowed to carve out some special uses where you can make a copy without the original author's permission. And in the US, what we have carved out, over the years for that is called fair use, right? Now, this doesn't just come from the Berne Convention because copyright existed before that, but the Berne Convention is now kind of the backstop, right? It was in the 70s. There's been, people keep ratifying it, so it gets, more and more countries get into it till now it's basically everybody. So in order to have a fair use exception, in order to say I can, take these copyrighted works and use them without a license, you need to demonstrate that your use doesn't violate. There's basically this four-pronged test. And the most important of the prongs is essentially that you are not doing any economic damage to the rights holder, right? That's the very most important one. The Supreme Court has said it's the most important one. All the courts have consistently followed that guidance that, like, if what you are doing is creating an economic negative outcome for the original rights holder, it's probably not fair use, right? Like it's highly unlikely that it's going to be fair use because that's the main thing that copyright was designed to do, is to give money to the people who made the works so that they will continue to make them. So hopefully that all makes sense.
I think it does.
A question.
Oh.
Yes.
So you said the Berne Convention, that's the thing in the desert that people go to every year?
Burning Man?
TJ, how long have you been planning this joke? Like, how long has it been?
Immediately after
He thought about it as soon as he said, I saw his light bulb just go off.
I was just waiting for a pause so I could make that joke, but I was gonna pretend I didn't know for real. Sorry, Brian. Okay,
No
Casey,
way.
sorry. Continue.
No, that's how it works. All the countries have to send their ambassador out into the desert. They
what
all
makes
make a
sense.
really big, weird thing like sculptures, and people serve drinks. Everyone's high. And then they sign this treaty. They don't know what it says. It's probably written in some foreign pictograph like language thing that hasn't existed, Sanskrit. And that's how we do copyright now. And it's fine. Sometimes they get stranded there. We hope there's not a windstorm, because then there'll be no copyrighted works the following year.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it makes sense.
That seems to
That's
be
the only
on par with
reason that
government.
the AI companies would think they could just steal everyone's stuff and then make money off of it. So
To get into this is why I said you're opening a huge can of worms here, because like I love studying law. It's one of the things I do
Oh, really?
in my spare time for
Me too.
whatever. So I'm into it. So anyway, the thing that I've been saying for quite some time actually is I don't really understand AI companies' defense. And the reason for that is their primary defense has been that this is fair use because the thing that comes out of the AI is not going to economically compete with the things going into it. Now, that's kind of tenuous on its own, and we don't really need to go into that to talk about this particular tweet. I think that's a pretty tenuous defense to begin with because they rely on a thing called Authors Guild v. Google, which if you read it, seems like it would have come out the other way had Google had their AI summaries at the time the case, right? At that time, that case was litigated. Google just had search results, right? And the little snippet from the web page. It didn't have the thing that basically makes it unnecessary for you to go to, say, Box Office Mojo to find out what the box office is. So I think actually Google would have lost Authors Guild v. Google today, and I think AI companies aren't appreciating that. So I think that defense is also very tenuous, but you can put that aside because maybe you don't think it is. Maybe you read Authors Guild v. Google differently than I do, whatever. The thing that I've been saying is, who cares about that? The market is AI training data. We know that's a market. I know you guys have received this too. I have a YouTube channel. It's not even remotely as popular as Prime's, for example. I've got emails from people offering to pay me money to license my YouTube videos for AI training. So we don't even need to hypothesize that the market exists. It already does. People are already paying money for this content. So I'm like, look, it's an open and shut case. The market is the market for AI training data. They're not paying us and they owe us because we could be generating revenue from our content by licensing it to AI companies to put it into their algorithms. And so I've been saying that for quite some time. That's been my general position on what this is. We don't know what the courts will find, but other people have made this argument. New York Times made this argument in court. We don't know, made this argument in their initial filing. Their case hasn't percolated through the courts enough to get an opinion on that yet. But this first opinion that came out in February that I missed, I only read it yesterday, actually holds exactly that. In this opinion, finding for Thomson Reuters that their copyright was violated and it was not fair use, the court said literally this. It said, there is potentially a market for this training data. You are stealing their copyright, you're infringing their copyright in that market, and that could have negative ramifications for that was literally in the opinion. And so I thought this was a very positive sign because this suggests to me that courts are thinking that way, lawyers are making that argument, and it's very possible that it will be found to be that way as more of these cases go through. So to me, this was a very positive outcome because I think AI companies should have to pay for their training data. That's the entire long-winded thing. So hopefully everyone now has context. Take it away, team.
Wow. That was definitely some context. I feel like TJ, I could just see you the whole time. You were bobbing, you were ready.
I missed the whole thing.
Because I already have a lot of feelings on. I'm feeling a lot of things here.
I have a funny question and a serious question. Which one do you want, Prime?
Obviously, start off with TJ funny, which is the best funny.
If they trained on Trash's code, does Trash have to pay them or they have to pay Trash?
Ooh, sick bird.
No.
God of
For
Trash.
your code, Trash.
Yeah.
No, they pay me.
For liability. For liability.
You damaged them, bro.
Okay, fair. They
It's
pay
actually
you,
job
but you are
security.
liable, Trash. You are liable for the code, but they pay you.
Only I can debug that code, baby. Job security.
When the AI
Josh's
company
code
gets sued for the
percolating
output, right? Like when it's like, look, this thing, deleted all of our data, and they're like, well, I mean, it's just we can trace it back to this training set from Trash, and I don't know what to tell you. Talk to him.
Trash has been selling all of his data. He just cannot wait for this. He's just, come on, get all my
I'm
code
trying to
off there.
sabotage AI.
Okay, my serious question is though, so let's say code's on GitHub. Did I sign something? I mean, obviously I read the TOS, so we can put that away. Obviously I read it. I'm just testing you, Casey. Did I sign something to let GitHub let people do this without my permission?
So that's going to be a really good question and a really difficult question. I haven't tried to look into that because the reason for that is there's such a thing as a contract of adhesion, which is what you are effectively sort of quote unquote signing when you agree to use a service, right? In a way, it depends how you want to look at it. Terms of service and contract of adhesion are technically a little bit different. Like a contract of adhesion is more like the thing you sign when you go to get a cell phone, or something like that. But it's the same kind of principle. There are limits to what you can give away. If the cell phone company had buried a little tiny clause in that giant contract that said, and also we can human traffic all your kids or whatever, right? It's like, it doesn't suddenly, I mean, that's going to be criminal as well. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, they can't just put something arbitrarily egregious that would, quote unquote, offend the conscience into one of these boilerplate things and then actually expect that to get them out of jail free when they go to court. And so I would have to say that's a much harder question.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I would imagine you wouldn't have to worry too much about Microsoft's competitors being able to do it, because the only people you probably gave an agreement to was them. So it might be training Copilot or maybe an OpenAI through some agreement, but Google would probably never be allowed to do it because Microsoft wants the competitive advantage of all the source code on GitHub. My recommendation, and I have been thinking about doing this for a while, is I think everyone should probably be going dark these days. Everyone should be pulling stuff and putting it on their own website with a little notice that says, if you want to use this for AI training, you have to pay me. That's I think, the best practice. If, like, let's say you gentlemen are distinguished web devs and you know a lot of distinguished web devs. If you put up the AI safe GitHub tomorrow, I would move everything that I have to it literally as soon as it was up. Yeah. And I think a lot of other people would too. And I would also encourage everyone else to do so. So that would be a great competitor to GitHub. If anyone wanted to do that, I would even pay a fee to do that. Meaning I would pay for a good GitHub clone out there that would get me away from licensing Microsoft implicitly. Because, like I said, I don't know if it will turn out to be something that they're allowed to do by slipping it in a TOS. But it might be, and until a court case, we wouldn't know. So the safer thing to do is to just not use it.
So could you use an AI, an LLM, to generate a GitHub-like interface trained off of code on GitHub to then launch a private AI-free service? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
That'd be an interesting thing to do, but again, based on what we have seen, you may very well be liable for copyright infringement because of the way these court cases are going. Because if you weren't Microsoft and don't have the effective, like, in the GitHub terms of service, there's probably some clauses that say, like, you grant Microsoft GitHub, but, as a subsidiary of Microsoft, worldwide, license to reproduce this work or whatever it is, right? Because they need to for operating the service. And they'll just argue, well, Copilot is part of the service, so we train it, right? Mm-hmm. Other people don't have that out. They can't go to court and say, like, well, you agreed to it, right? And so, so that's kind of that's going to be a gray area, even if things go the way this court case did and the way that I think they should, which is that AI companies need a proper license. Who knows? Who knows what that looks like?
Will anyone using AI, is there any sort of like trickle down to this where if people who are using AI, will they become also like tangentially liable for what they have generated?
Yeah. So that's very possible, but also I think that really depends on people. So this will transition nicely into another thing I want to talk about, and you just tell me when we're ready to transition. Because
just tell me when. I have it. I'm ready.
Hold on, I want to say something.
Okay, so we're gonna let's get through all this first, and then we'll transition. So to say like that,
let me talk.
Trash.
Jeez.
Okay, I'm gonna bring this back to the Studio Ghibli scenario because that's what everyone's probably familiar with, right? Where that was a whole big debacle.
Yeah, Trash isn't checking out the laws, but he did see the pictures on the internet.
Yeah, he saw Sam
I'm the last
Altman
person
looking quite
that
Ghibli.
you want to talk to about law, okay?
No, you said you study it. You said you study it. He knows what he's talking about.
I study it when I
facetious.
pirate all
that
my...
was not real.
Okay, riddle me this scenario. Okay, so we're going to bring this back to art, and I think art is like where it gets really, really muddy. It's probably not as cut and dry as like this Reuters scenario, which is like a very niche kind of area, I feel like. So riddle me this. I'm an artist. I don't really care if people use my work. I just want to be well known. I just want people to see my work. But as a human, I have inspirations from other people. Maybe it's Studio Ghibli. Maybe it's a number of other very popular artists where it's very obvious if I'm stealing their work. So when I draw, you're probably going to see a little bit of those details come out. All right. But I allow you to use my work for your training data because I don't care. I have a full-time job doing something else. Drawing's just my hobby. But when you're training on my data, some of those little qualities come out. Maybe I like Studio Ghibli eyes, you know? Maybe I like Dragon Ball Z abs. I don't know. So what happens if that comes out and then someone else notices it and they're like, wait a minute, that's Goku's six pack, right? Will I be in trouble? Do you get in trouble? Or is it fair use because, I don't know, I put like an extra shadow on one of the abs or something. I don't know.
So you're
So how's that work?
You're basically talking about is there a scenario where there's effectively copyright laundering? So we take Studio Ghibli, some other artist draws something sort of like it, and then that artist gives them permission to train, gives an AI permission to train. That's what we're talking about, just to be clear?
Yeah.
My assumption, that is the reason we have courts. In other words, for weird corner cases like this, if someone really cared and was worried about it, they would go to court and a judge or a jury would look at that evidence and say, do we think this was really against the spirit of copyright law or not? My gut feeling is that would be fine, meaning that, you know, there isn't, Studio Ghibli is not marketing educational materials for humans right now, and they are not marketing materials for AI training right now. If things go the way I assume, they will do the latter only. They will say, okay, here is our pricing for AI training, because now that's a market and we understand that. So AI companies have to pay that if they want to. If they don't then say, also, if humans want to train on it, you have to pay us this, right? And therefore these are educational materials, then no. And also that thing, again, all of this stuff is based on licensing. If they provided a license with their training course that says, also, you agree not to draw things too close to our style, right? If they don't do that, then there has been no, like, that causal chain is not broken. A lot of people get confused because they think for some reason humans and machines have to be treated identically or something like this. But actually, not only do humans and machines not have to be treated equally under copyright law, but humans and humans don't have to be treated equally under copyright law. You can sell something for one price to professionals with one license that says you can do anything you want to it, and by the way, it's $5,000. And another one to students that says it's $50 and you can't use this for anything that makes money. That's completely legal. So again, you can copyright law is supposed to allow the person who made the thing to determine how it is used. And if Studio Ghibli wants to make special screenings of their movies where a big thing comes up on the screen that says no one can draw like this, if you are going to look at this movie and try to draw like this, leave the theater now because that is not allowed and your ticket price will be refunded. They can do that.
Can they? Is that contract of adhesion that we talked about earlier?
Yes.
Do you guys remember when on Facebook, like probably 10 years ago, when everyone would start posting that Facebook cannot use my posts for like anything, and everyone just kept posting it as if it did anything, and it was the funniest thing ever?
I'm pretty sure my grandparents have been doing that recently. Actually, these posts are not allowed to be used by AIs.
My parents are just like, you do not have my permission. I'm just like, oh my god.
Like, it's too late, brother.
Your parents need to put a price tag on it. That's what they're missing. Put a price tag on there. Say, like, in order to use this for training, it costs $1,000. Put it on there. Put it on there. It might help you out someday.
Okay, so here's my next question. Suppose they find out, okay, couldn't train on the GitHub stuff, or like couldn't train because people had some GPL license on their code, and it was in clear violation of the license as stated, the way that they used to train it.
Right.
They're gonna have to delete the models? What is the next step? Let's say they find it out, right? Is it like we got to roll these back and we're starting back at GPT 2.0? Like,
yeah. So again, and it's important for everyone to remember all the things we're talking about are somewhat hypothetical. We know what happened in the Reuters case. It's a district court, which means there's 2 more levels to go, right? Because AI companies are going to have to fight this because, you know, they're in a lot of trouble potentially. So there's district court that gets appealed to like an appellate circuit, right? You know, it's like the 9th Circuit or something like that. Then that gets appealed to the Supreme Court. So we don't know what we're talking about right now, right? So just important everyone's aware that we're just saying hypothetically, if this stuff happens, here's what's gonna go, but we don't know that. So anyway, to your hypothetical, right? usually in copyright cases, the first thing you get is injunctive relief. They have to stop selling whatever the thing is that infringed, right?
Right.
So my assumption is that at the very least, they would have to literally rerun the training round. They would have to pull that content. Like if, let's say, Studio Ghibli won it, they'd have to pull all the frames of all the Studio Ghibli things and rerun the $50 million training round. I don't know what they cost these days to run, but you know, they're in the tens, or I don't know if they're in the hundreds ever, but they're in the tens of millions oftentimes, is my understanding.
What about
So,
like
Casey,
distillations? Like things that, like, you know, like R1, one of its secret sauces was that, you know, it could verify some of its data against OpenAI and be like, okay, so this is like a great way to predict what's coming up next. Does that also, excluding if China were to listen to it, does that also mean that all derivative things that used O1 as part of their training set also have to then fall under the same copyright problem?
Potentially, but again, maybe it's too attenuated at that point. I don't know. And again, this is why I say, like, this is going to be something courts are going to be dealing with for a while, because it's like that you know, does Studio Ghibli see that, you know, well, and the other thing too is people always say like, oh, well, you know, that'll just ruin U.S. companies. Like, no, this will apply to everybody. If China can't come into the U.S. market and sell something they trained somewhere else, if it was based on copyrighted data, they'll get the same exact injunction slapped on them, right? They can be taken to court just like anybody else. And again, also, none of this stuff really applies to research, right? Because that is actual fair use. So if you weren't commercializing this AI, you're not providing it to the public, you're just doing it in some lab somewhere for research and publishing papers on it, that would probably be totally fine fair use in all these scenarios. If you're a government agency who's doing this for national security purposes, like OpenAI usually try to use the national security thing. It's like as if generating Studio Ghibli images is national security.
It is.
That stuff is separate work, right? Those are separate things, and they can be cabined off, and they can use copyrighted works. But the instant you say, oh, hey, we're OpenAI, and you can come pay to use this, Mr. General Public, that's a commercial product, and you're on the hook. So, you know, if the court cases keep going the way they're going, all the things that we're talking about are plausible things that courts will be asked. Absolutely.
Well, and the reason I asked in particular about rolling it back is my understanding is, generally speaking, they are using a lot of transfer, like learning, right? They're taking weights that they already did before. They're using that as the beginning of the next round of training. Now, I don't know for like new models, whatever. My understanding is, though, like when you do these things, you do a lot of transfer learning. That was one of the things that they found out that was crazy about neural nets, is like, yo, we can train it over here and we can train on something else later and it does better. And you're like, what the heck? We don't understand why. And they're like, okay, because of math. Sure, math. Like magnets are real.
It's true.
Sorry. That's
and TJ learned about ICP just like 2 weeks ago and learned about magnets. And so he's
Okay.
I
just
still
so
don't
stoked
actually
about
know
it
what
right
it
now.
is,
He's
but
so stoked.
just the magnets are, that joke's too good for me.
I love that joke. I have made it many times, and everyone's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, Insane Clown Posse? Anyone? No? Okay.
TJ literally just discovered it last week, so he's very stoked right now.
But so that's kind of what, like, the transfer learning aspect is really, because I wonder how far they would try and pull that back, right? Because like initially they were just literally reading all the code on GitHub for sure. We know because they would be like, start typing out this GPL code, and it completes the rest, including source comments and saying it's GPL. Right? So it's like, okay, well, that's definitely against the license. So that part is very, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds.
Well, we also have Facebook admitting in public filings that they went to, like, I mean, they effectively went to Pirate Bay to download stuff for their training. Like, they knowingly violated, like, literally international law to get their training data in the first place. And so you kind of have this situation where these AI companies are completely on the hook. So the only question is, what are courts going to decide about whether any of this is fair? And like I said, I'm optimistic because of the Reuters case. I don't know what will happen in the future. I'm optimistic that they won't. You know, can I get Cat on stream? Can I?
There you go. Yep, Cat on stream's fine.
I'm allergic to cats.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Good.
Sorry, Trash.
But no. By the way, the fun part about the Facebook one is that there's an actual email from one of the like leads that's just like, I probably shouldn't do this on my work computer. Sweating smiley face. It's just like, oh my
It's amazing.
gosh.
It's amazing. It's nuts. I looked at that stuff and I'm like, what is happening, right? Like,
It's like
they
all
put
the way up
that
to
in an
Zuckerberg,
email.
too. They
right?
Zuckerberg's like, yep, that's probably a bad idea, isn't it? Hey, do you want to learn how to code? Do you want to become a better back-end engineer? Well, you got to check out boot.dev. Now, I personally have made a couple courses from them. I have live walkthroughs free available on YouTube of the whole course, everything on boot.dev. You can go through for free. But if you want the gamified experience, the tracking of your learning and all that, then you got to pay up the money. But hey, go check them out. It's awesome. Many content creators you know and you like make courses there. Boot.dev/prime for 25% off.